Hello viewers, welcome yet again to our running episodes on genetics entitled Mendelism and Beyond. In some of my previous lectures, we have had a detailed discussion on the genetic proof of crossing over, which was exemplified in the form of unordered and ordered tetrads. Both of these structures and their mechanisms, they were funneled to the basic idea as to how to make a genetic map, which is the topic of our discussion today, and that is the fundamentals of genetic mapping. Let us first begin with some of the fundamental aspects to be recapitulated as to how to take into account certain basic criteria so as to make a chromosomal map. Viewers, you should remember that how are we going to represent the genetic map or a linkage map or a chromosomal map? You remember I told you that this is the basis as to how the linkage of genes are going to be represented on a chromosomes, because we say A is farther from B than A is to C. Now, this is all a qualitative approach. We ask ourselves a question: how close are they? How distant are they? So, Alfred H. Sturtevant, the illustrious student of Professor Morgan, had an answer to this, who in the year 1913 made the first genetic map and also gave the idea of the Morgan units, which are the map units. So, that means he said that the genetic map actually is showing a linear order. It is so spaced on the chromosome that we can find out the distance between the adjacent genes, and not only the location, it is the recombination frequency between them which is going to be reflected. In other words, the distance between the adjacent genes is proportional to the frequency of recombination between them. Now, we will also try to answer a question which we will ask ourselves: is it always true? Let us see how the discussion progresses. Now, we know that there is no hard and fast rule that this is the place where crossing over has to take place. In other words, it is going to take place at random locations. But one point is very true: the closer the two genes are to each other, less are the chances, less is the likelihood of a crossing over to take place. And therefore, we find the percentage of gametes which are showing crossover between the two genes would be an actual measure of how far or how apart these two genes are located. In other words, recombination tends to occur more with increasing frequency as the distance between the two gene loci increases, and therefore, it is this very parameter, that is the percentage of recombination, which is used to calculate the map distance between the two genes. That is important. And quantitatively, 1% recombination is going to be equal to 1 map unit or 1 centimorgan. So, that means once we know what are the recombination frequencies among the progeny of the heterozygous parent, then we can find out what is the number of genes that they are present, and then we can construct a genetic map giving their location and the relative distances between them. So, in other words, there is something called as a physical distance that we are going to calculate in terms of location of these gene loci on the chromosome. But then you should remember, viewers, distance between loci represent the frequency of recombination. It may not always be equivalent, as the question we asked a little while ago, to the precise physical distance, because as we would see later, sometimes crossing over may take place, yet recombinants are not formed. So what do we do in such situations? Although the number of DNA base pairs have been correlated with the values of percentage recombination, but then this is approximate. So we have two very important aspects of genetic mapping that we have to study. One is the gene distance, and that is how do we find the relative distance between the two gene loci or the genetic units, and then in what order are they located. That means we have to find out the linear order in which these genes are arranged with respect to one another. Let me give you an example. If we have three genes A, B, C, okay, we find out the distance between them, but then how, in what order are they located? It could be ABC, it could be CBA, it could be ACB, it could be the other forms of permutations. So let us go back to the original experiments that were performed by Professor Morgan, and this cross is between the white-eyed females, and of course they are larger in size, and the diminutive males which are having red eyes. All right, why do we put Y in the denominator? Because there is no X chromosome, that is we have this only on the X chromosome, these characters, okay, and then we get a trans heterozygote in terms of this cross. When a test cross is made, we find that the progeny quantitatively give us the results, which are again interesting. Out of 1,000 progeny, the parental types are to the tune of 96.9%. That means 969 have not undergone recombination at all, and the recombination is seen only in 19 plus 12, which means 31 out of the 1,000 progeny. So how do we now classify and give a nomenclature? The recombinant types are 31 by 1000, which comes to 3.1%. So what would be the genetic distance or the frequency of recombination? It would be 0.031. The genetic distance is, of course, we find in terms of percentage, it is 3.1%. So the distance between the two genes, namely the eye and the size, would be to the tune of 3.1 map units, which can be expressed in terms of centimorgans as 3.1 or abbreviated as 3.1 small c capital M. In other words, if two genes are going to recombine with a frequency of 3.1%, they are said to be 3.1 map unit apart. And we have seen that 1 map unit is equivalent to 1 centimorgan. So that means 3.1 centimorgan is equal to 3.1% of frequency of recombination. Viewers, you should be very clear on one point, that the chromosome is represented as a horizontal line. Each gene is assigned a specific position according to the genetic distance, and this 3.1 centimorgan can be represented as a linear line, a chromosome where the position of W and DM has been located, and they have been shown to be 3.1 centimorgan apart. But then, as I said, you have to be careful. This is only the beginning. This is only a very small portion of a chromosome that we are talking about, and it is not a complete genetic map. The complete or the full genetic map is much more complex, because the different types of genes are located with variable distances on both sides of the centromeres. So that means you have to be careful when you are going to talk about the genetic map of more than 2 genes. Look at this diagram very carefully, because if we are not familiar with these fundamentals, then we may go wrong in terms of our calculations. This is a situation where there are 50 meiotic divisions. So, one thing is very clear, 50 meiotic divisions would give rise to 200 combinations, 200 meiospores, and out of these it has been found that 49 meiosis have shown no crossover. Only one of the meiosis has shown a crossover. So, that means we have 49 plus 49 plus 49 plus 49 non-recombinants, and the one which has shown crossing over, the crossing over has taken place between just 2 of the non-sister chromatids. 2 of the remaining ones are still non-recombinant. So, that means out of the 200, only 2 are recombinants. Why we are stressing on this statistic time and again? We have to be sure what is the percentage of crossing over and what is the percentage of recombination. They may sometimes be different, and many a times they could be the same. So, that means to give you a calculation, frequency of recombination would be the number of only 2, and we have the total number as 200, which means it comes to 1%. Now, 1% by analogy becomes 1 map unit or 1 centimorgan. Now, please remember, frequency of crossing over was 2%, yet the frequency of recombination is 1%. Crossing over has taken place, 2 crossover chromatids are there, 2 non-crossover chromatids are there. So, that means 2% crossover frequency means out of 200 chromosomes, 2 are crossovers or recombinants. 2% crossover corresponds to 1% recombination here. Why? As I said before, and as you saw in the diagram, only half of the chromatids in each of the cell with a crossover are actually recombinant. So, here we find that 2% crossover is equivalent to 1% recombination. We take this situation a little further. We use certain marker genes, because we will know immediately if the crossing over and the recombination has taken place between the marker genes. We will find out where is the exact location of the genes after that. So, that means if we have the marker genes as capital A and capital B, and if there is a crossover between A and the centromere, but not between A and B, what could be the situation? Situation could be that the physical exchange between the innermost chromatids has taken place. This crossover may be located outside the region of A and B, and the resultant gametes will carry either capital A, capital B or small a, small b. Now, this happens to be a parental one, because crossing over has taken place. If you look very carefully at the diagram on your screens, you will find that this crossing over has taken place between A and the centromere and not between A and B. So, what will happen is crossing over has taken place, but then are we sure that whether recombinants have been formed? No. As a result, non-recombinants are got, and the presence of crossing over is there, but then it goes absolutely undetected, because it has not been taken, it has not taken place in the region of the markers. So, markers are remaining where they were. So, AB combination always now would give rise to a non-recombinant for A and B. Now, do we say that crossing over has not taken place? It has taken place, but it has not been able to detect any recombination because it did not include the marker at all. So, that means if the crossing over is outside the region, it is not detectable. It will be detectable only when the crossing over takes place between the genes. So, that means if it is not detected, then the genetic markers will remain in a non-recombinant case. Now, if there is a region between the two markers, if it is too large, and not just one, even two crossovers will take place within the same pair of chromatids, then we have a still different situation. If you look at your screens and we find that now there are two crossovers, they are occurring between A and B and between the same pair of chromatids. So what is going to be the situation? The whatever has been crossed, it reverses the first situation. So that means the effect of the first has been reversed. The chromosomes are again either AB capital or AB small. So that means again we are going to the same situation. Both of them are non-recombinants. Do we say that crossing over has not taken place? Well, double crossover has taken place, but then it has taken place in such a manner that the detection is not there of recombination, because it has not taken place between A and B. There is no recombination. So in other words, there has been a physical exchange between the chromatids, and the double crossovers, they are going to go undetected because the markers have not recombined. So that means again you have to be very clear. At one time we talk about recombination frequency, at the other we talk about the frequency of crossing over. Are they always the same? So that means if there is no detection of crossovers, one should very clearly distinguish between the distance between two genes. That is, either the distance is measured by recombination frequency and it is measured in terms of map units. So that means recombination frequency is a measure of recombination. How much recombination has actually been observed in a particular experiment, and not the number of not just the number of crossovers. The map distance between two genes therefore is equal to 1/2 of the average number of crossovers that takes place in the region per meiotic cell. So that means the map distance is a measure of crossing over. So sometimes we find that the double crossovers are not going to give rise to any recombinant gametes. If they are not, how are they contributing to the recombination frequency? They are contributing to the map distance, all right, but they are not contributing to recombination frequency. This is a very important point, learners, how you distinguish between the map distance and the crossing over in case it is a double crossover. So that means we were asking ourselves a question, would there be any situation where the map units will be equivalent to the recombination frequency? Well, yes, the map units will be equal to recombination frequency only when the region between the genes is short and not more than one crossover is possible, because if there is more than one crossover, then there are all the chances then the whole reversal will take place and these marker genes may go undetected. So if there are no multiple crossovers, then one map unit will be equivalent to 1% recombination. There is another fundamental principle which one needs to know while making the genetic maps, and this is called as the principle of additivity of map distances. So that means these recombination frequencies and the map distances between the genes, they would become additive when the genes are so close that they will not allow the possibility of multiple crossovers. Let us take a very simple example. X chromosome present in Drosophila, let us say take 3 characters, small y for yellow body, RB for the ruby eye color, and CV for shortened wing cross veins. Now, experimentally we have measured that the recombination frequency between Y and RB is 7.5%. RB and CV have a recombination frequency of 6.2%. Now, the question we are asking ourselves is, how are they located? When we talk of the location possibility, there are three possibilities, right? Whether Y is present in the middle, RB is present in the middle, or CV is located in the middle. Let us take the first case. We put Y in the middle. If Y is put in the middle, as you can see on your screens, RB and Y, they are 7.5 centimorgans. RB and Y are 7.5, so far so good. But then what happens to CV and RB? We have found it to be 6.2. Now this becomes much larger. So this situation happens to be contrary to the data, and therefore we will outrightly reject this map. We make another map with the same statistics. Now RB is present in the middle and not Y, and if the map is correct, then the distance between Y to CV should be 7.5 plus 6.2 is equal to 13.7. Well, this looks good and this is consistent with the data. So we can consider this, but we have to first consider the third situation so that we can eliminate the latter two. The third situation here is that CV is present in the middle. Now, if this map happens to be correct, then we find that Y and RB is 7.5 centimorgans, all right. But then the distance between Y to CV should be 7.5 minus 6.2 equivalent to 1.3 centimorgans. Well, it is true in this case. So that means this is consistent with the data, and therefore we have to consider these two maps, that is the one which I showed you previously and the present one. But then actually it was found we are using the principle of additivity. So the predicted Y to CV map distance is either 13.7 as we saw in the second case, or 1.3 map unit as we saw in the last case. When the actual recombination frequency was calculated and observed, it came out to be 13.3. So that means out of the three possibilities, the third possibility happens to be absolutely true, and therefore the map with YCV, where we have 13.7, this happens to be the correct one. Viewers, in our next lectures, we will like to continue with the calculations on how to make the recombination frequency as a tool for finding out the distance between the genes and their locations with the help of certain typical numericals. Thank you.